Call to order the Township of Ocean Planning Board regular meeting agenda, December 5th, 2022. Amy, can I have a roll call, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What are the other two?
The notice of requirements for the open public meeting law for this meeting has been satisfied. A copy of the notice has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Poster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on July 26, 2022. There's an emergency exit through the courtroom doors, 2 exits at the rear of the room. No smoking, board policy, no new cases will be started after 10:30 p.m. and no new testimony taken after 11 p.m. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean Community Cable Channel, Channel 22, and Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off, and if you need to make a call, go outside. All right, resolution memorializations. NKN Enterprise Holdings, Inc., Block 209, Lots 6 and 7, 1107 Highway, Route 35, Ocean, preliminary and final site plan approval. Get a motion to memorialize?
Motion. I'll second.
Amy?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, next one. Zakaria Family LP, Block 183, Lot 7, Brielle Avenue, Ocean, major site plan approval. You gotta get it. I'll make it. I'll move. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Renee and Lori Rolfe, Block 9, Lot 10.10, 231 Park Avenue, Ocean, major subdivision approval. I'll offer to approve that also.
I'll second. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Cases carried to January 23rd, 2022. Alessandro Nascimento, Block 17.01, Lot 8, 107 Adams Avenue, Ocean, R-4. Okay. Capital Project Review, Township of Ocean, Myland Playground, Block 159, Lot 1.01, 88 Cold Indian Springs Road. Mr. Arbus?
Good evening, how you doing?
Great.
We're here for a capital project review of the Myerland Playground. This is a project, it's block 159, lot 1. We received approval from the Board of Adjustment for subdivision of, this is the Capwell Water property, subdivision and an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. So that was received back in October, and we're here today for the capital project review. I have Mr. Blash, who's the municipal engineer. And
You don't have to, I know Mr. Blash.
everybody knows Mr. Blash.
That's right. Just keep on going.
No one knows me, they know him. But he will explain what's going on, and this is really just the playground for that project review. So, Mr. Blash, you want to
You
tell
wanna-
me who you
you
are,
have to-
just for the record?
You don't have to. Do you have to swear him in?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And the full name. Spell your last.
Gregory Blash. B-L-A-S-H.
And you're familiar with his credentials, I take it.
I do. I do not. Yes. We're all good.
I would question them, but
Really? Your credentials I'm a little worried about.
everybody questions that.
You have the mic.
Good evening. We're here tonight to get capital approval to add a handicap playground to a piece of property that the town purchased through a subdivision that we got from the zoning board, as Mr. Arvis explained. The property is known as the Keppel property, located out on Cold Indian Springs Road. We subdivided the property, you guys all through, this is proposed lot 1.01. It's not really lot 1.01 yet until it gets all documented and sale goes through. So what we're proposing to do is use the existing facilities, and we're proposing to put a 45 by 60 handicap playground in. And that's the size of the park that we're showing on here is the outer limits of the park. If you look through some of the literature that we submitted over, and also the park is not a square, it's just those are the outside pole limits. So we're also included with that, we're putting in 8 parking spaces, 2 of which are handicap, which is vehicle parking. The access to the playground will be fenced because of the proximity to the lake. There's a pond out on the existing property, existing home. Coming down the driveway, we're proposing to put this in an open area here, so there'll be no tree clearing required. A little bit of leveling, not much. So we're proposing to put that there with the 8 parking spaces off the existing driveway. The parking spaces and the existing access sidewalk, which runs across from the 5-foot sidewalk in front of that, will be permanent pavement and concrete. So that'll all soak back into the ground so we don't affect the stormwater.
Mr. Flesh, can you take a microphone? It doesn't go far, or you're not getting picked up or transcribing. No, not at all.
Parking spaces too. Parking spaces too.
I think you're doing great up until then.
Thank you. Nobody could hear me. Okay, so the parking spaces will be pervious pavement with the the typical design with a stone basin underneath that to absorb all the water. The actual playground area itself will have that soft fall surface. It kind of almost looks like astroturf. That also has the stone basin underneath, 12 inches of stone under it, so that will seep back into the ground. So we'll have a zero impact on the stormwater runoff. It's all going to seep back into the ground. One of the things also with the park, it's going to be open from dawn to dusk, so there'll be no additional lighting. So we won't impact any of the neighbors from a stormwater or a lighting point of view. It's just going to be daylight hours activities. I believe we've agreed on Sunday hours. I think it's dawn to dusk every day except Sunday. It's 11 to 4.
My recollection, and we haven't finalized this agreement, and just to clarify, we're not yet the owners, we're the contract purchaser, and after our approvals, we were waiting for the appeal period to run before we actually closed, so it's subject to closing. But I think the hours we agreed upon with the objectors were dawn to dusk every day, Saturday 10 to 6, and we have to get approval from the council. Saturday 10 to 6, and Sunday I think 11 to 4. But and there may be a 2-year moratorium on Sunday, just to as we move into that. Right.
So the overall impact of this development is very minimal. Even if you considered the parking lot as impervious, we'd only be increasing the overall coverage, which is currently at 10.6% to 10.7%. So it's really a de minimis impact. Like I say, the runoff will all seep into the ground through impervious. Even if we didn't, it would run off into the pond, which has a control structure at the lower end of it, of a dam outlet structure. So we will not be impacting anybody around us. We have no variances or waivers requests. We totally conform to the zoning requirements of the R4 district, which we are not. This is going to be open space recreational.
How are the cars governed going down to the site?
There won't be. There's going to be a U-shaped driveway entrance here. They're going to be both ways. That'll come down the driveway, which is kind of like narrow for 2 ways. But just for the initial part of this, for the park opening, we're proposing no changes to that because we're going to wait to see what happens with the development of the residential structure. But we're not predicting or planning on having a huge turnout for this exactly right away. There are only 8 parking spaces in there. With such a light load of traffic, I don't think it's going to be a problem, that existing driveway.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
What are the hours of the other parks in town?
Dawn to dusk.
All right. I mean, just as somebody who lives over there, it would be nice that our park, because this is really what it is the Wayside. We don't have any parks in Wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Our park now has different hours because.
No, just to clarify, the playground is dawn to dusk.
Oh.
The only restriction, maybe we didn't make that clear.
Okay,
The only objections we have relate to the use of the pond, not to the park.
got it. Okay.
So it's really
That's-
nothing to do with the park. That's doing to
There we
us.
go. Because people run my neighborhood. I mean, I could see people going back there and trying to do a loop around there. So I just wanted to make sure it was accessible.
Yeah, that's some of the future things we have is to put trails around here possibly, but yeah, generally everything here is going to be run through the recreation department. Any activities on the pond will be recreation driven with supervision. There's going to be no open lake time for the public.
Good.
That'll be closed to the public.
Do our professionals have anything to say? You have nothing to say? This is the first time?
You don't hear that from a planner very often.
Wow.
Now I'm excited.
I'll ask a question. Greg, what's the age group of that's designed for the playground?
It's a handicap age of all ages.
Microphone.
It's intended for children and or young adults that are in wheelchairs.
Okay.
It's for handicap access specifically.
Okay.
Not that other kids can't use it, but it would not be very challenging for kids who are not handicapped.
Maybe very young kids would use it.
Anybody from the public have any questions? Okay. I think we can close the hearing. I guess we're just gonna say we're gonna approve.
Well, I don't think you approve it. I think you recommend it.
If you recommend it, if you have no objections to it, you just say, we recommend it as it was presented. That's all.
We're recommending
Recommend
as
it
we
to- you
propose.
recommend it to the mayor and council.
But we'll note that Mr. Fisher has recused himself on this issue.
As he certainly has.
Do you want a resolution on this?
I would love to recuse myself. Thank you.
I'll do something. I'll figure something out. Yeah, but
It's
you would
right.
what?
I think you just do a letter, say that it's recommended. I don't think you
or
have to do a
just,
resolution. But you can if you'd like.
You lawyers like to
We'll figure that
battle
out.
it out. It's
No, but
okay.
I think you need to
Whatever you'd like.
vote to recommend to mayor and council to move forward with this
Okay,
this
so
project.
Make a motion. What do
make
you
a
say?
motion to recommend to the mayor and council.
Recommend approval to the mayor and council. It's a capital improvement. That's the municipal land use law indicates that that's your power,
Okay,
just to recommend.
all right. I make a motion for that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Happy holidays.
All right.
You too.
It's gonna be a nice park.
I like these
Yeah.
axes. Finally.
Nope, not yet. Wait. All right. So our next thing, how are we gonna do this, Mark?
I have
We
no
just-
idea.
So I'm just gonna read the paragraph and say that we goofed on the
I
lot and
guess
block?
what happened is that the notice that was sent or put in the paper.
There was both. There was an error in the notice that was put in the paper for the Ocean Glades redevelopment hearing that was in October 24th. On October 24th. The notice said Block 101, Lot 3301. The reality is it's Block 102, Lot 3301.
Okay.
Nothing else from what I presented else changes.
Okay.
The maps don't change. There was one typo in the report that found its way into the notice.
Now the resolution that you approved
Yes.
is the correct lot and block.
Oh, so it is.
The issue was whether the notice went out properly.
So what they voted. I guess what you're doing tonight is opening it to the public, if anybody's interested, and you can probably just reaffirm your resolution.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone here from the public have anything to say about Ocean Glades? Come on, don't be bashful. No one? Okay, we can close the hearing on that. And so we're just reaffirming
Yeah.
our resolution.
Well, reaffirming the resolution. Are you going to do another one? Who
That
did
would
this?
be up to
I didn't do this.
McManaman.
All right.
They did it.
Well, they should probably send an amended resolution and indicate, that this was passed on such and such a date, and inadvertently,
And why you had to travel
Yeah.
2.5 hours round trip.
inadvertently, The notice has
love you
now
guys.
been corrected, and it was repassed tonight or something. Okay, you'll tell them what to do. Okay.
Do we need to vote?
Yes. Vote. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Vote to reaffirm. No.
we're voting to reaffirm.
Oh, no, I guess it would be only the people. This is an odd one. I guess it would only be the people who had
From-
heard the hearing.
That's correct.
Yeah. Which is here. Which is in.
I was gonna say, does the
It's in the.
I already did.
Oh, I'll second then.
Who moved
Yes.
it last
Okay.
time? Let's see. Yes, no's.
I said I make a motion to reaffirm the Ocean Glades resolution.
Second.
See Amy's super skills.
Mr. Peculiar,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
Mr. Formonica,
Yes.
and Mr. Wood.
Yes. All
Thank you
right,
very much.
you're welcome. New case, Continental Land Developers LLC, Block 34, Lot 8, 1610-20, Poplar Ocean, Zone R-7. This is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval to remove an existing pool, tennis courts, and construct a recreation office building attached to a garage, maintenance building, pavilion, concrete pad, picnic, grill area, benches, walkways, and trash enclosure. Ms. Krimko, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jennifer Krimko on behalf of the applicant. As indicated, it's a relatively simple application tonight. We have a apartment complex that's been there since the early 70s, and the existing recreational facilities have also been there since the early 70s. And the owners are looking to upgrade and make this a more modern facility and bring it into modern times to make it more competitive. As you're going to hear through the testimony, it's as simple as resurfacing a basketball court, getting rid of a tennis court, upgrading the playground and some outdoor space, and building a proper building for a gym for the residents, as well as a all-purpose room and office and garage. That's the sum and substance of what we have.
Okay. Do you guys want to summarize your report?
I'll summarize it. Yeah, as Mr. Krimko said, they're going to remove a number of structures, a pool, the pool building, the tennis court, and they're going to repave the basketball court.
Can I stop you
They're
for
gonna
1 second?
Yes.
Do you need to swear in our professionals?
Yes.
So,
Oh, our professional.
Okay, no.
Oh.
Okay, just let you know, the way the planning board runs things is entirely different than the zoning board.
Yeah, that's fine.
The professionals are sworn in once.
yeah,
The
I know.
zoning board.
Well, I know that
But,
usually,
no, you do it this way. We'll do it your way. You're the boss.
Yeah.
You solemnly swear to
It's a
tell the
whole
truth.
different board.
Both of you guys,
Right.
professionals, you solemnly
so
tell.
that's how,
swear
I
to tell
just
the
was
truth, whole
thinking,
truth,
he's
nothing but the
talking,
truth.
right? We
I
should
do.
swear
I
him in
do.
first.
Okay, we swore in both the
Okay.
planner and the
Okay.
board engineer.
All right,
And
great.
what I've said previously was the truth also.
Okay, great.
Basically, it's approximately 1 acre of a 38, almost 37 acre site. They're going to put a new building in, some playground equipment. They're going to redo some sidewalk area, to put some landscaping in, and some additional parking spaces. It's the R7 zone. They do need some variances for the size of the parking spaces. They're 9 feet wide instead of the required 10 feet, and the entire development is 9 feet wide. The existing spaces in this area that are remain will be 9 feet wide. Number of parking spaces. The ordinance requires 1 space for 200 square feet for new buildings such as what's being proposed. That requires 43 parking spaces. It's providing 40 parking spaces. I don't have a big problem with that because the intent of the ordinance is really for a freestanding recreational building, not for one that's part of a much larger development. And a lot of the people that utilize this site, these buildings, are going to be walking there rather than driving, so I think the parking's adequate. And then there's also a technical variance for the thickness of the mulching material. 4 inches required, the plan says 3 inches. My report says they should put the 4 inches in, but quite frankly, if the board wants to grant that variance, I think the 3 inches is more than adequate. So that's something you can decide what you want to do. They need a design waiver because the ordinance requires sod, wherever there's any lawn areas disturbed and replanted. I don't have a problem with them using seed, particularly since it's in an area that's not really visible, and when lawns are seeded and grow, they're actually much hardier than sod. Sod has a tendency not to do as well over the longer period, so I don't have a big problem with that. And I do know the Environmental Commission had an issue with plant materials, I think, and I, unfortunately, as we talked in caucus, I neglected to call Mr. Colton back, because I totally forgot to call him back, so I will talk with him tomorrow and find out what it was he wanted. Maybe Ms. Krimko can add
Yeah,
to that.
so we got a letter, an email that he had said that Ronna just handed to us, and we can work with Jim to satisfy his letter. I mean, it really just has to do with his concern of there being plants that attract bees around the picnic area, and people might have bee allergies, and the ability for certain types of vinca to grow in areas that are heavily trafficked. So we'll work with Jim to satisfy
Okay.
him.
Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Generally, I don't have a whole lot of comments. Jim touched on parking already. I had a note in my report about the number of parking spaces and how the proposed building, according to the ordinance, if you calculated the number of spaces, it resulted in the requirement of 43 spaces, and I believe there would be 40 out there. Stormwater management, I had a few very minor technical details in there, and maybe just a quick summary from the applicant would be appropriate. And that's basically it. It's a fairly simple site.
Okay.
May I?
You may.
Okay, great. Just quickly, well, let me just start by saying we can stipulate to everything in Ben's letter so we can address all of his concerns, should the board approve it as a condition of approval. A1 is the survey, the partial topo survey, which was submitted, and that is dated 4/27/20. A2 is the preliminary and final site plan.
720.
Yeah, preliminary and final site plan, that's by Bowman Consulting, and that is dated 5/18/22. A3 are the architectural plans by CPL Partnership, dated 7/27/22. And then I have a couple of handouts for the board. I'm just going to read them in and then pass them out. A3 is an aerial.
A4.
I'm sorry, A4 is, I said it right in front of me, and I was at the eye doctor most of today, sorry. A4 is an aerial by Bowman, dated today. A5 is an aerial with the site plan overlay by Bowman, dated today. A6 is a color rendering of the recreation building. And A7 is a color rendering of the garage building. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna hand them as a packet and just kind of have everyone take one.
Sure, why not?
Wait. A4 is aerial, A5 is aerial, A6 and A7 you would have.
Right, the color renderings.
Yeah, I thought you stopped at 6.
No, there's 2 color renderings.
I got it.
I don't know why she gives it.
There we go.
There's 2?
This was,
Yes,
yes.
And we have to sort them ourselves.
No, Mark, there's one of them.
Oh. What are these? Oh, this, I got it. I just figured this out. Awesome, by the way. There's the other, right? I see.
Dr. Benedetto, while we're passing them out, can I have my witness sworn in? Is that okay, or should we wait?
Let's just wait, because I don't want to, I know Mark does things a little differently.
No, that's fine.
I've been doing things differently with Mark for 20 plus years now.
Just a few more minutes.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay, swear a minute.
Okay.
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and your spell your last name.
Sean, S-E-A-N, Delaney, D-E-L-A-N-Y.
Sean, you're a licensed licensed engineer, state of New Jersey, and your license is in good standing?
Yes, it is. I'm employed by Bowman Consulting, our Freehold Township office.
We'd submit him as an expert, Dr. Benedetto, unless there's any questions.
Any questions, we'll take on as an expert.
Thank you.
So,
I also am a licensed planner as well, in case any fund testimony needs to be provided.
okay, so Sean, just briefly in referencing the exhibits we moved in, just orient the board with what portion of the site we're talking about and what's existing and what we're proposing.
Okay. Looking at Exhibit A4, which is the existing aerial map, the subject, the proposed improvements are located on a portion of Block 34, Lot 8. On Exhibit A4 in the center of the page, there's the two asphalt areas, which is the existing basketball court and the tennis court. The playground just to the west of that. To the north is the existing pool and lawn areas with the existing building against the parking located on the west of the site. The property is located between those parking areas and Willow Drive, which provides access out to Route 35 to the east and Poplar Road to the west. The area of the improvements that we're talking about are total just under an acre, about 0.93 acres in fact. In addition, there are some environmental constraints that limited some of the improvements out here as well. There's a wetlands area located to the east of the basketball courts that has a 50-foot buffer to it, which an LOI was obtained from the DEP for that verification. There's also an existing flood hazard area on the site at elevation 48 that was also been verified by the DEP. It's shown on the plans. All of the proposed new improvements are located outside of all of those environmentally constrained areas. A portion of the flood hazard area does cut into the basketball court a little bit, which is only being resurfaced. So there's no new expansion or enlargement of that area, just resurfacing in a small piece of that. Moving over to Exhibit A5, the concept plan rendering. Okay. Plan shows the proposed improvements to be done by the applicant, consisting of two buildings, a proposed recreation building and office, a garage building, and then a new parking area to the north of that, and then to the south, the removal of the tennis courts and placement of a picnic area and grill area and a covered seating area in the locations. The project is proposed to be constructed in 3 phases. A phasing plan was provided, a sheet 10 of 13 in the site plan set that was submitted as part of the application. Phase 1 will consist of the recreation building and office, the parking areas to the north, the trash enclosure, utilities, landscaping, and lighting improvements in those areas of the improvements, as well as pedestrian sidewalks, which will all be ADA compliant. Phase 2 is the garage and maintenance building. Once again, utility connections to that building, some landscaping and lighting around the perimeter, and once again, any additional sidewalks necessary for access to the facility. And Phase 3 would consist of the outdoor recreations to the south of the buildings, the picnic and grill area, the covered seated area, the resurfacing of the basketball court, limited lighting improvements, landscaping in those areas, and once again, the completion of any of the pedestrian sidewalks, ADA compliance to those facilities.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We're not proposing to have evening lighting either in the playground area or on the basketball court for night play, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that was one of the comments in one of the reports. And with regard to lighting and halogen, to the extent that the board engineer feels that security lighting is necessary, we would put that in, but we're not intending for this to be for night use.
Correct. Dawn to dusk is what's expected.
Even for the buildings?
No, I'm just with the outside recreation areas.
Utilities will all be installed underground. Sanitary sewer to the main and Willow Drive to the new buildings. Water, there's a service that runs to the east just off Willow Drive as well. And the electric would run underground from an existing transformer that's present on the site next to the playground already. Stormwater and roof runoff, that would all be handled by a roof drain collection system for each of the buildings, piped underground to connect to an inlet within the parking lot. The rest of the site would be allowed to sheet flow either towards the internal drive aisle to the units on site or to the east to the wetlands and Willow Drive area, as currently happens right now on the site.
Sean, I'd stipulated under 6A through C in Ben's letter, there's no issue complying with those?
No, there is not.
Okay.
And there is, and just note, there is a reduction in the impervious surfaces proposed on the project from what's existing on the site, so there would be a decrease in runoff from the property to the downstream areas. As Jen talked about, we have some lighting proposed. There are 2 lights located in the northern parking lot, 15 foot high. We have 2 lights located on the southern, to the south of the 2 buildings, one adjacent to the basketball court, one adjacent to the parking areas. Those are both 15 feet high, LED fixtures, a 3000 Kelvin temperature, which is a soft glow. So we're not looking at that bright white that would that you'd have in a retail commercial, more residential in nature. In addition, make sure that those all have 0 up. Oh, that's the right thing. Apologize for a second. The lights would be, we also have some building lights located at the entrances to the building as required by code. And also there's some recessed lightings and some canopies at the entrance to the main door and the breezeway between the 2 buildings. They're all LED fixtures, all 3000 Kelvin, mostly for security lighting there and access to the building during hours when the building is accessible by the residents of the facility.
And let's just talk, and I know the architect will have more, but just to go over that pretty quickly, the office is going to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5?
That's my understanding, yes.
And the architect will testify to it, but the operation for the rec building, the architect will talk about it, would be open just for the residents, and they would have entry via key fob, like any typical.
Correct. After hours, when it's not occupied by office staff, it'd be locked and only accessible by a key fob entry by residents.
Okay.
In terms of the site improvements, that's pretty much about all that we're proposing on the site. I'm sorry, there's some landscaping, obviously proposed. Deciduous trees to the north and along the parking areas, some foundation plantings, and as Ms. Grimshaw pointed out, the comments from the Environmental Commission, we would work with them to address those comments and swap out any species necessary for that. And then the variances, as Mr. Higgins pointed out, parking stalls 9 by 18 versus 10 by 18. The existing site has 9 by 18s. We're just being consistent with those dimensions. The number of parking spaces, we're providing an additional 9 spaces to what's there. We're removing 4, but adding 13 back in. Restriping to provide 2 handicap stalls in front of the recreation building for access. The spaces, don't expect it to be utilized for all the parking. A lot of people would walk to the facility, and it's integrated into the facility as well. So, as they pointed out, the professionals pointed out, that we expect that because it's integrated, the parking demand for this would not be as high as a standalone recreation facility.
And also, Sean, this is not dedicated parking necessarily for these users. It's not marked, so it's actually integrated in the overall site. And as can seen by the aerial, there's ample parking in the buildings adjacent to it as well.
Correct.
So there would be overflow in the event it was needed.
Correct.
And it's also my understanding that Willow Avenue is a private right-of-way, and there is parking permitted on Willow Avenue.
Yes.
And what's the garage building for?
The architect will get more into that in his testimony, but it's really for the maintenance facilities and staff for their use.
Where's the maintenance building now?
There is not one.
There's no maintenance building?
That's part of the problem.
Is there a leasing office?
The leasing office is currently in one of the units.
And what's going to happen to that unit?
Presumably it would be rented out. It was approved to
It
be
was
rented
approved
out.
as a residential.
Old school was that?
Can't contaminate and use it?
I don't think that's within our purview.
Okay. All right. It was just a thought. You said the lighting is just going to pertain to the 2 buildings and not the playground.
So in one of, and I might have misspoken, in one of the police department's reports, they'd asked about us lighting the courts for night play. And I was saying that we're not going to have it lit for night play. It was only going to be lit for security reasons
Okay,
and.
so the whole site is gonna be lit regardless,
Correct.
just
appropriately.
not for,
Right, it's not gonna, you're not gonna have those big
thank you.
lights.
Okay. And then, what about this, sod, and the plantings? How is that gonna be maintained?
What do you mean? But you mean who's gonna maintain it?
Well, there was discussion, Jim talked about sod versus seed, and you're doing some planting work here on this site. I drove by, the site is pretty run down. So how is it gonna be maintained? Even from the aerial photos, all the grass around this site it looks sparse. So how is it being maintained, is the question.
Okay, so I think you're asking if there's gonna be sprinklers?
Yeah,
Okay. I don't know. When we take a break, I can check with my client.
okay.
How many residents is it serving? How many residents in that development?
Well, the development is actually two developments that were approved separately, and Willow Avenue cuts across it. Currently, it's owned, they're owned under separate entities, but it's run by the same management company. So it's used together, but it could conceivably be two separate. But Lot 8, how many apartments are on just Lot 8 where we're doing the work?
I don't.
Okay,
That's-
we'll have the architect testify to
They are.
that.
Just have a quick question. Is that pool functional? Has that pool been functional for?
From what I understand, the pool has not been opened in about the last 5 or 6 years.
So it's just kind of a.
It's an eyesore collecting. Yeah.
Any thoughts to bring some pickleball in? Everybody loves pickleball. All right. I just wanted to know what was going on with the pool.
In Ben's letter, there was a question about the make-ready EV spaces.
Looking through the regulations, we'll have to confirm this with Ben in his office. There might be maybe one space that might be required. There's a gray area in the ordinance about how it's addressed or how the state adopted it. For not for a standalone parking facility, less than 50, one space is required, but there's just little nuances about it. But we will comply with the ordinance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just to clarify, I agree with that. That it is kind of nuanced, and it's kind of questionable whether or not a space is necessary. Typically, it's for a new facility, and when you're rehabilitating a facility like this, it's hard to determine whether or not one is needed. But I think that's fine. I can work with the engineer to make that determination. If it's needed, we'll get it in there.
Can I ask you a question about the use of this rec center? Is that your purvey?
The architect may be better, but depending on the question, if you'd like to ask, you
I
can
was just
be
going
ready for it.
is something that I could rent out, that the residents could rent out for parties? Is it something that, is it going to be card night, on Tuesdays, that type of thing?
The architect will address that.
Okay.
Any other questions for the engineer?
Any other questions from the board? Any questions for the public?
Thank you. I'd call Robert Larson. Clearly knows all the questions that are going to be asked.
That's how we like it.
Get it all out there up front.
No mysteries.
Okay, before you sit down, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Full name and spell your last, please.
Sure. It's Robert Larson. Last name spelled Larsen.
Ian. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Larson, you're the registered architect in New Jersey?
I am.
So, Robert, taking the lead from Sean with regard to the site, why don't we talk about the buildings, what we're proposing, and most importantly, how it's going to be used?
Sure, you got it. All right, so first, let's just describe in general the two structures that we're proposing. As we've mentioned many times already, there's going to be a recreation building and a garage building. The recreation building is about 5,400 square feet. It's going to contain things like a fitness room, there's a great room, which I think we're going to talk about its use a little bit. There's also a new home for the leasing office and how that can function, storage for their files and like that. One of the things unique that we're proposing and we found very useful in amenities packages today. Again, a big driver for this is that we have this existing community and the rental market has changed over the years, and this is an opportunity. A lot more people work from home, a lot more people stay in their community, all things considered. So when you look at the great room, you're going to see there's also a lot of these little, we call them quiet rooms, quiet boxes, which is basically you work from home, you need to get out of your apartment, you can go sit down, you can sit in one of these, have a Skype meeting and like that. They're very popular now, and there's also a small conference room for people to do if they need to meet somebody. So the package of the amenities is meant to meet the need of really that sort of changed modern market of interior amenities. Obviously the gym is available to the people as normally would be. There's also a yoga room, bathrooms, all of that support. Again, to meet, we think, the needs of a community of this size today. We also think it's going to help draw, tenants, keep the community, more full, and certainly, I think bring something special to what is not there now.
And Rob, just to confirm, because you said the size of the community, Lot 8, which is the subject property, is a thick 396 units.
Yeah, I believe Lot 80 is 396.
And Lot 10, which is adjacent, who would have access to
The
this
math
as well,
between the two is 602. So I'm not sure of the 396 to the 602, but
yeah, so, and it's 206 is the other one.
okay. Agreed.
You sure?
Positive.
All right, great. I like that.
Does that include the rental office?
What? I don't
Yes,
know.
it includes that
Existing
office.
rental office.
Yes.
I would suggest you tell your clients to update their website, because the website says 206 units.
Right,
Yeah,
206 on Lot 10 and 396 on Lot 8.
Oh, I thought you said 602 units.
No, together.
Together. So the south side of
No,
Willow.
it adds up to
Yeah,
602.
the south side.
So that recreation area is servicing those 600 units.
Yeah, because it's managed by the same company, it will be made available. And again, as Ms. Krimko has made clear, it's owned by two entities but managed by the same company. It will be available to the tenants. Again, just to reiterate before I get to the other building and to the exteriors, it is the intention to have the office be open the way they open it now, which is Monday through Friday 9 to 5. That will be for leasing. And like that, there's a staff currently of about 3 employees that will be there. Again, we've provided space within the building for them to lease, meet with people, obviously have normal office operations for managing the community. The garage building is a 2-bay garage with a work area for the supers. There are a number of supers that live on site. There is space provided for them, a small office, a place to keep their keys. Again, an opportunity for them to fix things, to store extra stuff, cabinets, woodwork, whatever they need to keep the apartments in good working order. There is no hazardous storage in the structure. It is really just for normal things that are needed to keep these apartments up and running. And again, space for the supers to do their work as well. There's a small connector between the two structures to be able to walk, weather covered between them, from the leasing office to the garage building.
And Robert, before you go to the exterior of these two, you had said the 2 structures, but we really have 3 in that there's an outdoor pavilion that
Correct.
has open sides, and that's just to allow for covered outdoor recreation.
Correct. Again, another need for, during a nice day when it's raining to be able to sit outside. There is a pavilion proposed. It's in my drawings as well. I did not render that in color. That's fairly standard, just a sort of a larger pavilion for gathering outside under cover.
Okay.
Again, just for the board, the total square footage of that ground floor area is, for the garage building, is about 3,150 square feet. In your
You need to take the mic from Amy, Rob.
I don't do it sitting down so much. It's weird to be sitting down. So in your packet, you're actually going to see, I believe it's A6 and A7. A6 is labeled Recreation Building, Continental Gardens, dated today. And you will notice in your handouts, and as well when I put up the garage building, that my printer decided to go super red on this. That is not our intention. So you can see we've created what we think is a more interesting architecture. You'll see we've used this sort of cream color. If you've been over to Continental Gardens, you know the majority of it is cream colored. In approaching the architecture for this building, we had made a decision to be complementary, not supplementary, that we would use colors and tones that were similar, but we would not try to replicate the yellow or the beige colored brick. So you can see that here. This will be a brown textured brick. We're going to use a couple of different kinds of siding, a shake and a vertical siding, an asphalt architectural roof. We've put on cupolas, chimneys, dormers to create, again, a more interesting and more exciting building, realizing that this is an opportunity to do that here on this site. And what we're looking at here is the side that will face sort of out as you would drive along. It's noted as the front elevation, and this is actually the right side, which would face away. You'll see there's different points of entry to the building, some that are proximal to the gym, some that are proximal to the main leasing office, depending upon who's going to be using it. This is, in terms of security, off hours, fob controlled. The management company is then able to know who is entering and leaving the building by fob control. And people, though gyms aren't always utilized so much, we hope it's used a lot, and people are able to come when they like so that they can work out. So this is the architecture proposed. The lights, the windows that you see, you're going to see a lot of second floor windows, and that's really in large part to bring light into some cathedral spaces, into both the gym as well as into the main meeting area. While I'm on that, the main meeting area will be available for small parties that they can be asked, they can have the room for a particular time. That'll be coordinated through management.
And that would just be for the tenants, though, it wouldn't be rented out to any third party?
Everything that is usable and proposed here is for the tenants. And the garage building that I just put up, I believe this is A7, is for the maintenance personnel, again, for their use. You can see we've carried the architecture, the brick, the siding, the colors, the window treatments and all of that to the other building. We didn't say, oh, it's just a maintenance structure. We tried to keep, again, the entire area more pleasant looking. You can see here the connector between the two buildings. There's just doors on either side to provide weather protected access between the two. In fact, when we're looking at this, we're actually looking through that connector right there. So in terms of architecture, I do lots of communities, and this is a unique time where we're actually having an opportunity to come back in and provide a pretty cool amenities package to some existing apartments.
Anybody have any questions for the architect?
I just had a quick question. So the hours of the gym, it's not like can you go at all hours, even with your fob?
I believe yes.
If I want a 2 a.m. workout, I can go hit the gym.
I guess that would be your prerogative.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Anyone else?
Just out of curiosity, the leasing office, does that also serve as a package delivery spot for residents if they're getting Amazon packages, stuff like that?
So right now we actually have a room that's called storage or package room. So as needed, we were going to open up. It's actually in the right side of this building, right underneath this cover. So it's something that we are considering Amazon packages is a whole thing in and of itself. So we have provided a room. I guess as we develop it, we'll decide how that's used.
I do have another. So, two different companies own this facility. One on one side of the road, one on the other. One management company for both facilities. So everybody, doesn't matter what side of the road, everybody's going to get a key fob, whether you live on the north side or the south side.
Again, my client's affirming yes.
All right. So it's just something internally. The two different entities worked out. Who's paying for this? All that sort of thing.
Yes, because it's one management company, it's easy for them to do that. And as tenants come and go, they'll be given, as part of their lease or part of their arrangements, they'll be given rules. Obviously, they can't just have free for all. Told how they can use it and given the fob.
Okay.
What kind of security is being proposed other than site lighting? I mean, 2 buildings are going in that are going to have expensive equipment, fitness equipment, computers, and maintenance shop. So
it's my understanding that it's going to have a security alarm that's going to be attached to central monitoring?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Cameras. Security cameras, all that
At
sort of
this,
thing?
at this point, we don't have a commitment to do cameras. At some point, they might, if there becomes a reason to. At this point, they're gonna rely on the security system and the ability to have the central monitoring.
Is it just the gym that's available 24/7, or all the common use rooms available 24/7?
Just the gym.
Just the gym.
Did you confer with your client?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that currently there is no sprinkler system on the site at all. So as far as maintenance, it would be obviously the supers. As far as watering is concerned, that was not going to be an intention to install underground sprinklering. I would think that in the beginning, while the plants are growing and taking hold, there would be manual watering. That would be done.
So you were saying that your client is unwilling to provide irrigation for this site.
I'm saying that my client is requesting a waiver from needing to put underground sprinklers for this small portion.
Actually, to correct Ms. Krimko, because I thought it was a requirement also, and it turns out the requirement for an underground sprinkler system is only for industrial and commercial sites, not for any residential sites, which is why that wasn't in my report as a waiver.
I'm confused. Why isn't this not a commercial site?
What? It's a residential site.
But
It's
they're putting in a
apartments.
commercial.
It's apartments. It's the R7 zone.
This is but
Multifamily residential.
I understand, but
Yeah.
they're changing and putting in a commercial building essentially.
It's not really a commercial building. It's an accessory building to the apartment complex.
I don't think that's.
What? Yeah.
I don't think that's a residential building.
What?
I don't view it as a
no,
residential
the site is a
building.
residential site. That's the thing. It's not a commercial or industrial building. And
My concern.
I
is
understand
that-
what you're saying.
How many
I
tre-
think
How many trees are you proposing?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm just asking. Just the right thing.
We have 12 new trees going in and just 90 to 100 shrubs and grasses and almost 200 units of ground cover.
Okay.
Most of them are foundation plantings around the base of the building.
Okay. In your opinion, do you think that they would survive without irrigation, with manual watering only?
I'm not a landscape architect, I will say that.
But you
But
did say you were a planner.
I am a planner, yes. I believe it can survive if it is watered, if the plants and stuff are watered in a regular schedule until they take hold. It's like any residential lot or so. Your home, you reseed your yard. You need to water it to get the seed to grow. And once you grow, then it's a maintenance aspect after that to, with fertilizing and continuous watering or reseeding areas that go out. So if it's watered effectively up front and maintained at a thing and not done during the hottest seasons, hottest times of the summer, yes, I believe they can grow. There also are maintenance requirements, or sorry, not maintenance, but I believe maintenance or that's what I'm thinking of, warranties on the plantings when they go in. So if something dies within usually the first year or so, they're replaced by the installer till it takes hold. But yes, I believe with the limited plantings that are going in here, I believe this could survive with an effective maintenance and watering schedule as long as it's held to.
If you get an approval, when will you build this?
If we get an approval, presuming resolution compliance, phase 1 would probably be after the new year, I would think, by the time we went through resolution compliance and the like. So maybe early spring it would start at the earliest.
Jim, you think that that's okay? Manual watering
I
for all
would
these
prefer to
plantings?
see an underground sprinkler system, which as I started to say before, because of the extent, I don't think this is a little bit of landscaping going in, I think it's fairly extensive.
Can I
And I
have
was
2 minutes?
quite surprised when I read the
Thanks.
ordinance.
Of course.
And, we'll wait till she comes back. I know, that's right.
I gave them a new water service too,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
building,
yeah.
so they're doing it
Yeah,
now.
I mean, it's no big deal.
That's the type of
Yeah,
plumbing work anyway.
couple $1,000 at the most.
What?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
see
yeah,
spending a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
To me.
Yeah, yeah. What? No, no.
Maybe you will. Maybe.
It's like Middleville.
What?
Middleville.
And it's gonna save them money in the long run, because they're gonna have inspections, there's gonna be performance bond inspections, and then a maintenance bond. I just did one maintenance bond inspection, they're gonna spend more money
but would want to install
replanting
maybe some
everything that they spent
electric
initially
vehicle
planting.
spots
And
for,
they have
you
the
know.
water system in, they're just not using it.
They're spending a lot of money for this building.
Yeah, yeah.
Put a sprinkler system.
Correct.
I think Jen's hands are tied.
What?
Jen's hands are tied.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She would have said, sure, we'll give you a sprinkler system.
Yeah.
If someone were to drive by there and figure it out.
This is gonna attract a different type of clientele, you think?
No better.
Are we back on the record?
Shoot, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm happy to report that we will agree to put in underground irrigation for any of the new landscaping.
Excellent.
I think that's a wise move, because otherwise your client's gonna be spending more to replace the landscaping at maintenance bond than you would spend to put the irrigation system in.
Anybody else have any questions? No? How about from the public? Okay, I think we can close the hearing. I'll offer a positive resolution for preliminary and
Well, you got
final
preliminary and final site plan approval.
site plan approval,
With variances for number of,
all the variances, all the waivers,
got it.
the lighting,
Everything we stipulated to on the
Jim
record.
and Bennett's concerns and irrigation.
But, and I think that the final landscaping plan will be subject to Jim's
Subject
approval.
to my approval, that's correct.
Because there's gonna be some
Jim, you
change.
got my
I
memo
will
for
work with the environmental
for the
commission on
landscape, right? You got my memo about the landscape, right? Okay, good. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Amy? This is to prove the preliminary and final site plan approval.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Did they open to the public?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Welcome. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Sam.
The
Make a
next
motion
meeting
to
here is
adjourn?
in January,
I make a motion to close
25th.
the meeting.
Second.
Did we just say aye?
Yes.
Aye.